You have been aiming at the wrong targets, and your one arrow is still unfired. Do not scroll past this. What I am about to say will cut through every distraction you have been drowning in and bring you face to face with the assignment you have been avoiding. Not because you do not care about it, because you have been so busy caring about everything else that the one thing I actually gave you to do has been sitting untouched while your arms grow tired from pulling back a bow for battles that were never yours. I gave you one arrow, one. Not a quiverful, not an arsenal. One perfectly crafted arrow, shaped for your hand, weighted for your strength, designed to hit a target that only you can see from the exact position where I placed you on this earth. No one else is standing where you are standing. No one else has the angle, and no one else was given this arrow. But you have been pointing it everywhere except where it belongs. At their emergencies, at their visions, at their needs that feel urgent but are not yours to meet. And every time you pull back the string aiming at a target I did not assign you, the arrow gets heavier in your hand, not because the arrow changed, because your arms were not built to hold the draw for targets that do not belong to you. You are exhausted, and the arrow is still waiting. I brought you to this message because the time for scattered aim is over. What I am about to reveal to you is the target, your target, the one I designed the arrow for, and why every day you spend aiming elsewhere is a day stolen from the assignment that will define your entire existence. Stay here. Your one arrow has been patient, but the window for the shot is not forever. Type 1 if you know deep down that you have been giving your energy to everything except the one thing God actually called you to do. Before we go any further, I need to tell you something that genuinely surprised me. A neuroscientist discovered a simple 7-second technique that actually rewires how your brain processes thoughts. And when I tried it, the difference was almost unsettling. My focus sharpened, ideas started connecting faster, and that mental fog, gone. This isn't manifestation nonsense. It's backed by real brain science, and thousands of people are already seeing results. But here's the catch. Only 5 spots are left. If something inside you is saying, try it, trust that instinct. Click the link in the description or pinned comment before it's too late. The target I assigned you is still waiting, but the wind is changing and the window is narrowing. Every archer knows that a shot is not just about aim. It is about timing. The wind shifts. The light changes. The gap between the trees that gives you a clear line to the target does not stay open indefinitely. And right now, in this season of your life, the gap is wider than it has been in years. But it will not stay this way. What I opened for you requires a decision that your distractions have been delaying. This is not a someday conversation. This is a right now warning. I need you to hear this as personally as I mean it. This message was not produced for the masses. It was aimed, like an arrow, at the one person who has been carrying a calling inside their chest like a burning coal they keep covering with other people's laundry. You pile obligation after obligation on top of it. You smother it with busyness. You bury it under the needs that shout loudest. But the coal does not go out. It burns. And the burning is what brought you here. You know exactly what I am talking about. That thing. The one you think about at 2 in the morning when every other voice has gone quiet. And the only sound left is the pulse of something unfinished pressing against the walls of your chest. The thing you have started and stopped, and started and stopped, because someone always needs you before you can get to it. The thing you have been treating as optional when I designed it as essential. It is not optional. It is your arrow. And you have one. I did not bring you here to add another task to your scattered list. I brought you here to remove everything that does not belong on it, and to show you what happens when an archer finally aims at the right target. What I tell you next will explain why you have felt empty despite being endlessly busy. Type burning if there is something inside you that will not stop calling your name, no matter how many other things you pile on top of it to keep it quiet. Chunk 3. Personal connection. I have been watching you pull back the string for everyone except yourself, not from a distance, not casually. I have been standing directly behind you, close enough to see your grip adjust every time a new request comes in, close enough to watch your arm pivot away from the target I set and toward another emergency that someone else placed in front of you. And every time you redirected your aim, I watched something in your eyes dim. Not dramatically, just enough for me to notice. You felt it too, that quiet dimming, that slow subtraction of purpose. I saw you last month when you said yes to something that had nothing to do with your arrow. You knew it the moment the word left your mouth. There was a heaviness that settled over you immediately. Not guilt exactly, but the specific weight of someone who just agreed to carry a load that was designed for different shoulders. And instead of putting it down, you adjusted your stance, redistributed the weight, and kept walking as though you were not already carrying more than your frame was built for. I watched that, and it grieved me, not because you are doing bad things. You are not. The things you are pouring yourself into are good things. Real needs, real people, real situations that genuinely benefit from your presence. But I did not give you the arrow so that you could use it as a walking stick to support everyone else's journey. I gave it to you because there is a target in the distance that remains untouched, and every day it stays untouched. Something in the spiritual atmosphere remains incomplete. Your arrow is not decorative, it is functional. And it has a job. I chose you for this conversation, not because you are failing, but because you are faithful in the wrong direction. Your aim is strong, your draw is powerful, your discipline is remarkable. But all of that excellence is pointed at coordinates I did not give you, and I cannot stay silent about it any longer. What I show you next is the cost of every misdirected shot. Type redirect if God just described your life, saying yes to everything except the one thing He actually gave you. And you feel the weight of that truth settling over you right now. I know about the resentment you will not admit to anyone. It lives in a place you do not let people visit, buried beneath your generosity, hidden underneath your willingness, pressed down below the version of yourself that everyone has come to depend on. But it is there, and it whispers to you on the nights when you are too tired to keep it quiet. Why am I building everyone else's life while mine sits in the corner untouched? That is not ingratitude. That is an arrow recognizing it has not been released. I see the way you feel after you finish helping someone with their vision, the strange emptiness that should not be there, because you did something good, something real, something that made a tangible difference. But the emptiness comes anyway. It arrives like a bill you forgot was due, and no amount of gratitude from the people you helped can pay it, because it is not a debt they owe you. It is a debt you owe yourself, the debt of the unfired arrow. I watched you scroll past your own calling at 11 at night because you spent the entire day building someone else's. I saw you close the notebook. I saw you shut the laptop. I saw you push aside the thing that makes your pulse quicken, the thing that was waiting for your hands, because your hands had already been emptied by other people's demands. And nobody noticed. Nobody said thank you for sacrificing your assignment today, because nobody knew it existed. You have hidden your arrow so well that the people draining your quiver do not even know they are pulling you away from something. They see a capable person with available hands. They do not see an archer with a loaded bow aimed at nothing, because every hour of available daylight has been donated to targets that carry other people's names. I see the arrow, I see the target, and I see you, standing in the field surrounded by everyone else's spent munition, still holding the one shot that matters most, with hands too tight to steady the aim. The exhaustion you feel is not from doing too much. It is from doing too much of what was never yours. Chunk 5. Pine Acknowledgement, PT2. The guilt is what keeps the bow pointed in the wrong direction. Someone taught you, early, deeply, convincingly, that your needs come last, that your calling can wait, that a good person puts targets ahead of their own and calls it sacrifice. And you absorbed that teaching so completely that it rewired the way you hold the bow. Every time you begin to turn toward your own target, a voice inside your chest fires before the arrow can. Who are you to focus on yourself when so many people need you? That voice sounds holy. It is not. I need you to hear what that voice has actually cost you. It has cost you years, not metaphorical years, actual calendar years were the thing I placed inside you. The assignment that burns and will not stop burning, sat dormant while you exhausted yourself, performing excellently at tasks I never wrote your name beside. You have a resume full of accomplishments that belong to other people's callings, and a blank page where your own assignment should have been written by now. That blank page haunts you. I know it does. You feel it most on the nights when the house goes quiet, and there is nothing left to distract you from the ache of something unbuilt, something unwritten, something unlaunched, something that exists only as potential inside your chest, fully formed in my mind but unreleased through your hands, because your hands have been permanently loaned out to anyone who asks. And you cannot even grieve it openly, because grieving your own unlived calling feels selfish in a world that rewards you for disappearing into other people's needs. So you grieve it silently, in the shower, in the car, in the 3 minutes between tasks, when the weight of what you are not doing presses harder than the weight of everything you are. I see the grief. I authored the arrow that is causing it, and I refuse to let you carry the ache of an unfired shot for one more season. Type release if you are carrying the silent grief of a calling you have been too guilty to prioritize, and something inside you just gave you permission to stop apologizing for wanting to aim at your own target. Chunk 6. Pulipation. The guilt you have been carrying is a counterfeit compass, and it has been pointing you away from your assignment. I need to dismantle something that has been governing your decisions for longer than you realize. The belief that focusing on your God-given calling is selfish did not come from me. I never authored that instruction. I never whispered to you that your arrow should be perpetually loaned to other people's battles while your target sits in the distance, collecting dust. That teaching came from a world that benefits from your distraction, not from the God who crafted your arrow by hand. Obedience is not selfishness. Obedience is aim. The seasons you spent pouring into other people's visions, I did not waste them. They were not errors. They taught your hands discipline. They strengthened your draw. They gave you endurance in the bow arm that you will need when the moment comes to hold your aim steady against the resistance that always accompanies a divine assignment. Every misdirected pull built muscle that the true shot will require. But the training season has ended. The shooting season has begun, and the delays you felt, the frustration of watching your calling remain untouched month after month. Those delays were not punishment. They were protection. I did not let you fire the arrow early because early arrows miss. They fly before the wind has settled. They release before the archer's breathing has steadied, and your breathing was not steady 6 months ago. Your hands were shaking with the urgency of too many competing demands. A shaking hand cannot deliver a precise arrow to a distant target. I was steadying your hands through the very busyness that frustrated you. Every obligation that exhausted you was secretly training the muscles you will need to hold the draw long enough for the shot I am about to clear for you. You were not wasting time. You were being forged into an archer who can hold still when everything around them is moving. And the stillness I am about to ask of you is the most important thing you will ever do. The wind just shifted, and I need you to feel what that means for your arrow. Something has changed in this last 2 weeks, and your spirit has been registering it, even though your schedule has been too loud to let you process it. A restlessness that is different from your usual fatigue, an impatience that does not feel like burnout, but like something waking up, something that has been hibernating inside you during the long season of misdirected aim, and is now pressing against your ribs with a force that will not be ignored. That is your arrow remembering what it was made for. Behind the scenes, while you were busy answering everyone else's requests, I was clearing a path. Not a path for your feet, a path for your arrow. I was removing obstacles between your bow and the target that have been standing in the way for years. People who would have opposed your assignment have been repositioned. Circumstances that would have deflected your shot have been rearranged. The gap between the trees that gives you a clear line to your target has been widening while you were too distracted to notice. But the gap is open now, and it will not stay open indefinitely. I have been working on something you cannot see, preparing the target itself, because a target that is not ready to receive the arrow wastes the shot just as surely as a misdirected aim. The thing you are called to build, the work you are meant to do, the assignment that has been burning inside you, the world was not ready for it 2 years ago. The soil was not prepared. The audience was not positioned. The infrastructure that your arrow needs to land and stay was not yet constructed. It is constructed now. The soil is ready. And what I need you to understand is that the urgency you are feeling is not anxiety. It is alignment. Your body is recognizing that for the first time in years, the wind, the gap, the target, and the archer are all in position simultaneously. What I reveal next is why this window exists, and what happens if the arrow is not released within it. Type aligned if you have been feeling a new urgency rising inside you lately, and you now realize it is not restlessness, but God telling you the shot is almost clear. This is the work you are called to do on earth, and the window for the shot is not a permanent opening. I did not title this message casually. Every word was placed with the precision of an arrow aimed at a specific point in your awareness. This is the work, not one of the works, not a nice addition to the portfolio of things you are already doing. The work, singular, the one assignment that justifies every breath I have given you, and every skill I embedded in your design, and every experience I routed you through, including the ones that seemed to have nothing to do with purpose. Everything was archery training. You just did not know you were holding a bow. The reason you have felt busy but empty, productive but hollow, is because activity without assignment is motion without trajectory. You have been pulling the string back and releasing it over and over without an arrow in the bow. The mechanics were perfect. The effort was real. The fatigue was genuine. But nothing was hitting the target because nothing was aimed at the target. You were performing the action of archery without the substance of the arrow. The arrow requires the target. The target requires the arrow. And you have been keeping them apart. This is why you waited. Not because I was withholding from you, because I needed you to reach the specific moment where the pain of misdirection exceeded the comfort of busyness, where the ache of the unfired arrow became louder than the applause you receive for helping everyone else hit their marks, where the burning in your chest became so unbearable that no amount of other people's gratitude could cool it. You have reached that moment. The burning brought you here. And the connection between the title and your life is not abstract. The work you are called to do on earth, the specific, singular, irreplaceable work, is not a concept I am introducing to you for the first time. It is a concept I am finally giving you permission to prioritize. You know what it is. You have always known. The arrow knows its target. It has been pointed at it in your dreams for years. Chunk 9, build up, PT3. Your fingers are on the string right now, and the target has never been clearer. Everything in this message has been building toward this position, the exact stance you are standing in at this moment. Feet planted, shoulders squared, eyes narrowing toward the one thing that has been burning in you for so long that you had almost convinced yourself the burning was a medical condition instead of a divine instruction. It is not a condition, it is a commission, and I need you to feel how close you are. Not close in the way you have felt before, the teasing, uncertain closeness that dissolves when reality reasserts itself tomorrow morning. This is structural closeness, the kind where every variable I control has been moved into its final position, and the only variable remaining is your willingness to release the string. The wind is still, the gap is open, the target is exposed. I have spent years preparing this shot for you. Not days, not weeks, years, arranging the terrain of your life so that when the moment arrived, you would have a clear line with no obstruction between the tip of your arrow and the center of the target on it. And that preparation is complete. There is nothing left for me to move, nothing left for me to remove, nothing left for me to rearrange. The only thing left is your release. And I know what is holding you back. It is not fear of the target. It is fear of what you will have to stop aiming at in order to aim at this. The people, the obligations, the expectations that have built an entire identity around your availability. You are afraid that the moment you turn your bow toward your own assignment, the world you built around other people's targets will collapse. It will not collapse. It will reorganize. But that reorganization requires you to move first. The next thing I speak over you is the moment the arrow has been waiting for since the day I placed it in your hands. Type aim if you can feel God positioning you right now, and you know that the thing you have been avoiding is the exact thing He has been preparing you to do. Chunk 10, shift turning point. This is your one assignment, and I am commanding you to finish it before doing anything else. Not requesting, not suggesting, not gently encouraging you to consider reprioritizing when the time feels right. I am commanding you with the full weight of the authority that crafted the arrow, carved the target, trained the archer, and cleared the wind. This is not optional. This is the work you are called to do on earth. And every day you spend aiming at someone else's target is a day stolen from an assignment that only your arrow can complete. No one else can hit this target. That is why I gave the arrow to you. I need you to let that penetrate past every layer of guilt and false humility that has been insulating you from this truth. The thing burning inside you, the assignment you keep pushing to the bottom of the list, the vision you keep shelving for next month, the work that wakes you up at night and follows you through the day like a shadow made of fire. That is not a hobby. That is not a side project. That is not something you will get to eventually when everyone else's needs have been met. That is the reason you are on this earth. And I have watched you treat it like a luxury instead of a necessity. You have given it your scraps, the leftover hours, the depleted energy, the margins of days that were already spent on tasks I never assigned. You have approached the most sacred thing I placed inside you with the posture of someone sneaking a guilty pleasure rather than someone executing a divine command. That ends today, right now, in this breath. The arrow was never meant to sit in the bow indefinitely. It was meant to fly, and the target it was designed for has been waiting in the distance, patient, exposed, ready, for an archer who would finally stop apologizing for having a purpose and release the string with the full conviction that this is what they were made to do. You were made for this shot, and the shot is now. The moment you release this arrow, everything that has been misaligned in your life snaps into position. That is what happens when an archer finally aims at the right target. The bow stops fighting the arms. The string stops cutting the fingers. The stance stops feeling forced. Everything that has been working against you in the physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of your life has been resistance caused by misdirection. You were never weak. You were never broken. You were aimed wrong, and a correctly built arrow fired at the wrong target creates more friction than no shot at all. The friction was the clue, and you have been ignoring it. Every area of your life that has felt unnecessarily hard, the finances that never stabilize, the energy that never replenishes, the relationships that drain instead of nourish, the health that deteriorates despite your discipline. Those are not separate problems with separate causes. They are symptoms of an archer whose entire system is misaligned because the arrow has not been pointed at its designed target. Alignment fixes what effort alone never could. When you commit to this assignment, fully, unapologetically, without the guilt that has been diluting your aim, the resistance drops, not gradually, suddenly. The way a key slides smoothly when it finally meets the lock it was cut for after being jammed into wrong doors for years. You will feel the difference in your body before you see it in your circumstances. A lightness, a clarity, an energy source that seems to appear from nowhere but has actually been blocked by the misalignment this entire time. Your exhaustion was never about capacity. It was about direction. And the shift that is happening inside you right now, this realignment of your attention, your priority, your permission to aim at the one thing I gave you, this shift does not just change your schedule, it changes your destiny. Because destiny is not a destination, it is a trajectory. And trajectory is determined by where the arrow is pointed. The moment it leaves the bow, your trajectory just changed. And everything changes with it. Type focused if you just felt something click into place inside you. A clarity that cuts through every distraction. And you know that focusing on your one assignment is the key that unlocks everything else. Chunk 12, Future Possibilities, PT.1. Let me show you what your life looks like when the arrow is finally in flight. The first thing that changes is the guilt. It evaporates. Not slowly. Not through a process of self-talk and gradual permission. It lifts off you like steam the moment the arrow leaves the bow because guilt cannot survive the release of obedience. Guilt was the weight of an unfired arrow pressing against a string that was never meant to hold it indefinitely. The moment you release, the weight transfers from your arms to the air, and you will stand in the lightness of a person who is finally doing what they were placed on this earth to do. You will breathe differently. I promise you that. The time you thought you did not have will appear, not through magic, through subtraction. The obligations that consumed your hours will begin to reveal themselves for what they always were. Other people's arrows that you volunteered to carry. And as you set them down, one by one, you will discover pockets of time that were always there, but always filled with tasks that carried someone else's name. Your calendar is about to become unrecognizable. The energy shifts next. The bone-deep fatigue that no amount of sleep could repair. The kind that lives in the layer between effort and purpose. That fatigue cannot survive the alignment of your arrow with its target. You will work longer hours on your assignment than you ever worked on other people's tasks, and finish the day with more energy than you started with. Because work that matches assignment does not drain. It generates. You are about to discover a fuel source that has been capped by misdirection for years. Resources will begin flowing toward the arrow in flight. Provision that was blocked while you aimed at the wrong targets will reroute itself toward your assignment. Finances, materials, knowledge, connections, they move toward arrows in motion. They do not gather around arrows in the bow. The flight is what attracts the supply. And you have not yet seen the most stunning part of what the arrow hits when it finally reaches the target. Chunk 13. Future Possibilities, PT.2. People are going to feel the impact of your arrow before they see it land. There is a sound that a perfectly aimed shot makes as it cuts through the air, a frequency that is felt before it is heard. And the people connected to your assignment, the ones I designed to receive what your arrow delivers, they are already sensing the vibration. They do not know your name yet. They do not know the shape of what is coming. But something in them has started leaning forward, the way a person leans toward a sound they cannot yet identify, but know they need. Your target is already anticipating your arrow. The people who have been watching you exhaust yourself on other people's visions are going to witness a transformation they will struggle to articulate. They will see you pull back from obligations that used to define you, and they will expect you to collapse without them. Instead, they will watch you come alive, brighter, sharper, more present, more yourself than they have ever experienced you. And the contrast between the scattered version and the aimed version will be so dramatic that some will not recognize you at first. That is not loss. That is accuracy finally made visible. Opportunities that never materialized despite your relentless effort are going to appear, but only after the arrow is released. This is the part that most people get backwards. They wait for the opportunity before they commit to the aim. But arrows do not work that way. The opportunity is the target. The target does not manifest until the archer demonstrates commitment by drawing the bow and pointing it in the right direction. You do not aim after the door opens. You aim, and the door opens in response. Your commitment unlocks the corridor. Professional recognition, creative breakthroughs, financial provision, relational depth. All of these are positioned along the flight path of your arrow. They are not scattered randomly across the field. They are lined up in the trajectory between your bow and the target I assigned you. Miss the target, miss them all. Hit the target, and you collect every single one on the way. What comes next will explain why I trusted this particular arrow to no one but you. Type trajectory if you now understand that every blessing you have been waiting for is positioned along the flight path of the one assignment God gave you, and you are ready to aim. Chunk 14. Identity Reinforcement. I crafted this arrow from the material of who you are, which is why no one else can fire it. This was not mass production. I did not forge a generic arrow and assign it to the nearest available hand. I pulled the material from the specific composition of your life, your particular pain, your particular sensitivity, your particular way of seeing the world that makes other people tilt their head because they do not understand how you arrived at the conclusions you arrive at. The arrow is made of you. That is why it fits no other bow. Your strangeness is your qualification. The things about you that never fit, the interests that seemed too niche to be profitable, the passion that people smiled at politely but never took seriously, the internal compass that pulled you towards something everyone around you considered impractical. Those were not malfunctions. Those were specifications. I was engineering an archer with a perspective so singular that the arrow they carry could only be aimed from one position on the earth. Your position. I do not make duplicate archers. I make originals. And the reason I chose you specifically, not someone with more resources, not someone with a larger platform, not someone whose life looks more assembled from the outside, is because the target I assigned requires an arrow forged in the exact fires you have walked through. Your struggles are not disqualifications. They are the heat that tempered the shaft. Your failures are not evidence of incompetence. They are the process that straightened the fletching. Every difficult season you endured was metallurgy, the refining of raw material into a projectile capable of traveling the distance between your bow and the mark I set. No one else walked through your fire, so no one else carries your arrow, and the calling you keep minimizing, the one you describe apologetically in conversations as just this thing I have been wanting to do. Stop shrinking it. It is not a thing. It is the thing. The assignment that heaven is waiting on. The work that the earth needs from your specific hands. You were not given a hobby. You were given a weapon designed for a target that changes everything it strikes. Chunk 15 diopti removal. The doubt you are feeling right now has a very specific shape, and I want to name it before it names you. It sounds like this. What if I aim at my calling and miss? What if I turn down other people's requests? Carve out the time, gather the courage, draw the bow, release the string, and the arrow falls short. What if the target I think I see is not actually there, and I end up standing in an empty field with nothing to show for the sacrifice, except the relationships stretched by choosing my assignment over their needs? That doubt assumes I gave you an arrow without ensuring the target was real. I need you to understand something about how I operate. I do not craft arrows for imaginary targets. I do not forge purpose inside a human chest and then fail to place the corresponding mark in the world. The target exists with the same certainty that the arrow exists. It is real. It is positioned. It is waiting. And the distance between your bow and its center has been measured by my hand. Not estimated. Measured. Your arrow will reach it. The engineering guarantees it. And the second doubt, the one that disguises itself as humility, sounds like this. Who am I to focus on my own calling when I am nothing special? Other people have more talent, more education, more connections, more everything. Surely the target deserves a better archer. That doubt confuses ability with assignment. I did not choose you because you ranked highest on a list of candidates. I chose you because the arrow is made from your material and responds only to your draw and flies true only from your bow. A more talented archer with a different arrow would miss your target by miles. Talent is not the variable, alignment is. And you are aligned with this target in a way that no amount of someone else's superiority can replicate. Stop auditioning for a role you were already cast in. The director does not hold callbacks for a part that was written for one actor. Typecast. If you are done auditioning for permission to pursue what God already assigned you, and you are ready to step into the role without apology. Even while you were aiming at the wrong targets, I was standing behind you, protecting the arrow. You assumed that the years spent misdirected had damaged something, that the arrow had dulled from being loaded and unloaded so many times without being fired at its true mark, that the tip had lost its sharpness, that the shaft had warped from being carried through seasons it was never designed for. You looked down at what I gave you and wondered if it was still viable after everything it had been through. The arrow is sharper now than the day I placed it in your hands, because I was maintaining it. Every season you spent aiming elsewhere, I was quietly preserving the instrument you were neglecting. While you were busy helping others hit their marks, I was running my thumb along the edge of your purpose, keeping it honed, keeping it ready, keeping it in a state of immediate deployment for the moment you would finally turn toward the right target. You neglected it. I did not. There were nights when you lay awake convinced that you had waited too long, that the window had closed, that the target had moved on without you, and your one arrow was now a relic of a calling that expired while you were busy being useful to everyone else. I heard that thought. I felt the despair behind it, and I need you to know that it was the single most inaccurate thought you have ever had. Targets I set do not expire. Arrows I craft do not dull. The assignment I placed inside you has been in a state of divine preservation this entire time. Protected from your neglect, shielded from the wear of your misdirection, kept in the exact condition required for the moment you would return to it, which is this moment, not a future moment, this one. And the God who preserved your arrow through every distracted season is the same God standing behind you right now, Hand steady on your shoulder, breath calm against the back of your neck, whispering aim. Chunk 17, Reassurance, PT2. I know the name of the thing you are called to do, and I have known it longer than the doubt has been arguing against it. You whisper it to yourself sometimes, in the car, in the shower, in the gap between one obligation and the next, when your mind drifts back to the thing it always drifts back to. You say it quietly because saying it loudly would make it real, and making it real would mean you can no longer hide behind busyness as an excuse for not pursuing it. I hear every whisper, and I am not asking you to whisper anymore. I know the specific shape of your calling the way a bowyer knows the specific curve of every bow he has ever made. I know where the idea first entered you, the exact age, the exact moment, the exact experience that planted the seed. I know how it grew quietly through your adolescence, how it sharpened during your 20s, how it nearly died during the season where survival replaced ambition, and you could not afford the luxury of purpose. It did not die. I would not let it. I know the version of it you carry now, more mature than the original, more textured, more informed by the pain you have walked through. The arrow I placed in your hands at the beginning has been refined by every year you have lived. And the version that exists today, the one sitting in your bow right now, is more precise, more powerful, more capable of hitting the target than any earlier version could have been. Your delay refined the arrow. It did not disqualify it. And I need you to know that the details of your assignment, the specific steps, the specific sequence, the specific first move you need to make, are not hidden from you. They are sitting in the part of your mind that you visit when no one is asking anything of you. The plan is already there. I wrote it on the inside of your awareness years ago. You do not need more information. You need permission, and I am giving it to you now. Type permission if you have been waiting for God to confirm the thing you have known in your chest for years. And this message just became that confirmation. Chunk 18. Inspection. Here is what I need you to do, and the order matters. Before you say yes to the next request that lands on your desk, before you pick up the phone, answer the email, volunteer for the project, agree to carry another person's load, I need you to fire first. Not prepare to fire, not plan to fire, not create a timeline for eventually firing. Fire, release the string, begin the assignment. Take the first concrete step toward the target I showed you before this day ends. The first step does not need to be large. It needs to be real. Write the first page. Make the first call. Register the name. Open the account. Send the message. Draft the outline. Whatever the first physical action is that moves your arrow from concept to motion, do it today. Not because the timing is perfect. Because the archer who waits for perfect conditions never releases the string. Wind always exists. Doubt always exists. Other people's needs always exist. You fire in the presence of all of them, not in their absence. Obedience does not wait for comfort. It moves through discomfort. And here is the instruction that will cost you the most. You must reorganize your commitments around the arrow, not around the demands. This means some people will be disappointed. Some will not understand. Some will accuse you of changing, of becoming selfish, of abandoning the role they built their expectations around. Let them adjust. Their adjustment is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is the arrow. Not every target in your field is your target. I am not telling you to abandon kindness. I am not telling you to stop loving people or serving where genuine need exists. I am telling you to stop confusing other people's urgency with your assignment. Urgency shouts, assignment burns, and you have been answering the shout while ignoring the burn for far too long. The burn is the instruction. Follow it, fire the arrow, finish the work before doing anything else. You made it to this moment, standing at the line with the bow drawn and the target clear, and I need you to feel how far you have come. Not long ago you could not even name the target. It was a blur in the distance. Something you sensed but could not define. Something you wanted but could not defend. Something you ached for but could not articulate without immediately minimizing it, so that no one would think you were being selfish for having a purpose of your own. But you are standing at the line now, and the blur has become a bullseye. I want to thank you for something that no one else has the context to appreciate. Thank you for keeping the arrow through every season of misdirection, through every year of aiming at other people's targets, through every night when the burning inside you felt more like a burden than a gift. You did not throw the arrow away. You could have. You could have decided that the ache of carrying an unfired purpose was too expensive and chosen to live without it. Millions do, but you held it, and holding it brought you here. I need you to feel the warmth of my hand on your shoulder right now. Not pushing, not correcting your aim, just resting there. The way it has been resting through every distracted season without you knowing. I was never frustrated with you. I was never disappointed by the misdirection. I was patient, the same patience that an instructor shows an archer who has all the talent and all the training, but simply needs to be told one thing. It is time. Aim, release. The guilt is dissolving. Can you feel it leaving your body? The weight of 1,000 obligations that were never yours is lifting off your bow arm. The string is lighter. The target is closer than it has ever been. And the God who gave you one arrow is standing close enough to whisper the only words that matter now. This the work. Finish it, and I am with you for every inch of the flight. Type fire if you are done, carrying the weight of everyone else's targets. And you are ready to release the one arrow God gave you toward the one assignment that will define your life. Chunk 20. Final identity seal. You are not the scattered person who started this message. That person was drowning in other people's targets. Arms tired, aim fractured, arrow unfired, guilt pressing down on every attempt to prioritize the one thing that mattered most. That person believed that focusing on their calling was a luxury reserved for people with fewer responsibilities and more permission. That person treated their God-given assignment like a secret they were ashamed of, instead of a command they were built to obey. That person just released the string, and the arrow is in flight. From this moment forward, you are not an archer holding an unfired arrow. You are an archer whose arrow is cutting through the air toward a target that has been waiting since before you drew your first breath. The guilt cannot follow the arrow. The distraction cannot match its speed. The voices of everyone who ever benefited from your misdirection cannot outrun the trajectory of an arrow released in obedience to the God who crafted it. Your arrow is faster than their opinions, and it is already gone. You will never again be the person who gives their scraps to their purpose and their best to other people's emergencies. That version of you has been retired. Not by force, but by focus. The bow in your hands is no longer loaded with potential. It is empty in the most sacred way possible. Empty because the arrow has been released. Empty because the assignment has been activated. Empty because you finally did what you were placed on this earth to do. You fired, and the target will never be the same after your arrow hits it. Nothing in your life will sit in its old position after today. Not your schedule, not your relationships, not your identity, not the quiet resentment that used to live beneath your generosity. All of it has been reorganized by a single act of aimed obedience. You are an archer with a clear target, and your arrow is already in the air. Subscribe to this channel so that every time God has a message for the archer in you, it reaches your bow before the wind changes. You were not built to scatter your aim across 100 targets. You were built for one shot that changes everything. The next message will steady your hand for what comes after the arrow lands. Type bullseye if you are leaving this message knowing exactly what your one assignment is. and you refuse to spend another day aiming at anything that does not carry your name and God's fingerprints on the target.